With the allotted time arriving at Monday, July 8th, about 4:48, I'm calling this Human Resources Committee meeting to order. We have a quorum present in chamber. Number one is approval of the June 10th, 2024 minutes. They're in your packet. Any questions or other problems? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Motion by Killian, second by Martins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and none opposed. That passes unanimously. Human Resources Report for June 2024. It's in your packet. Any questions for our director? If not, we'll place that on file. Discussion and possible action to restructure the City of Wausau Animal Control Program. This was tabled until this month with a question regarding what qualifications were in the original job description that was in your packet. So that was why it was tabled. I don't know if there's any further discussion on this. Go ahead.
Do you want any discussion that we have in this regard at this point?
Well, okay, the first one is if there's any discussion regarding the qualifications, the question that was asked for tabling, that's number one. Number two, I don't know, do you have any questions regarding the proposed restructuring of the animal control program?
I don't have any questions. I have some comments.
Okay, I mean, that's fine.
Whenever, do you want them after a motion or?
It's up to you. You can do it before or after. I mean, I don't know how you feel. We could also take a motion to approve and then do it. So do we have a motion to approve the proposed animal control program?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second? I'll second. Okay, do you have, now you want some questions?
Okay. Excuse my voice, I'm having some vocal cord problems today, but the program that was presented was extremely comprehensive and well thought out. And I understand that, I think there were three basic reasons why they felt the humane officer position should be eliminated, and that the CSOs and the patrol officers with advanced education would take that position. My concern was that we really didn't have much information from people who are experts in the area of animal handling and taking, those who took care of animals. So what I did last week, we heard from Stacy Wells, who was a vet tech, and she's been a vet tech for 8 years, and she had a master's certification from the University of Pennsylvania, I believe. And she felt that the CSOs with the 40-hour certification and the patrol officers with the advanced education would not be adequate. She said it took her more than a year to be comfortable handling animals that really needed help, even with her advanced education. So I wanted to hear a little bit more from experts who take care of animals and what they felt. So I made a few phone calls last week, and I talked to several people at veterinary clinics because I felt like they were the people who really know what animal handling is about and what it takes to take care of animals. And there were three people that I just wanted to summarize what I was told. I spoke with a certified vet tech from the Rib Mountain, and I did not talk about person, I only talked about position, and explained what was being proposed. I spoke with a certified vet tech at the Rib Mountain Petco vaccination clinic, and she indicated that she was very familiar that Wausau had a humane officer position, and she thought it was a tremendous asset to the community. And she said that she did not personally feel that CSOs with the 40-hour certification, even with the 2-year continuing education and so forth, would be adequate to handle animals as they need to be handled. I spoke with a veterinarian from the Wausau Animal Clinic, Dr. Carla Sather. She indicated, and I'll read to you what she said. She indicated that she has in the past worked with patrol officers who've done an extremely good job, but she did not feel that CSOs with 40-hour certification would be adequate. She sent me a follow-up email and indicated that someone in the humane officer position should have advanced training in animal handling and animal evaluation, including but not limited to behavior and appropriate care and handling. She stated that a certified veterinary technician has such skills and much more training and skills in this area. She said, I am aware that the person filling this role cannot be on duty 24/7, so other personnel will have to help. But even then, having the resources of such a trained person, even after the initial event, helps with research and follow-up. And the last person I spoke with was Michelle Watford. She's the hospital manager at VCA Companion Care Animal Hospital. She's been there for many, many years. Michelle had a very strong opinion and said that CSOs with 40 hours of training with animal handling is not adequate compared to what a humane officer can do. Animal handling is something you need to be confident, well-versed, and understand animal behavior. She said, I do not agree with discontinuing the position at this time, and I hope you will take this into consideration. So overall, my personal feeling is that I want to listen to the experts who handle animals, and I will not probably be supporting this at this time.
Did you have, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the information that was in the, I have some questions with regard to the larger issue of the humane officer training program. According to the Wisconsin Department of Agricultural Trade and Consumer Protection, all humane officers appointed within the past year, have we ever appointed, has the city council ever appointed a humane officer? I don't recall that, and which leads to, the certification and being registered as a humane officer in the state of Wisconsin. Have we?
Yes, that role when it was created back in 2013, 2014.
Right. But according to the minutes, that I don't know that the position was created, but was that in fact registered with the Department of Agricultural Trade and Consumer Protection?
By nature of completing the course, you have that certification as long as you follow through on the continuing education requirements.
Well, I don't mean to, I think that I sense a little bit of a different opinion on that, but I'm not a lawyer, and I just went with the administrative code with regard to that, so I'm not sure, which leads to registering the certification, the registering approval appointment by the city council as the humane officer. So I'm not sure. I was just raising that question.
So the position that we have currently, it's titled humane officer, but it doesn't require those same certifications that you're discussing. So there was no appointment. It was an employee who applied for a job and received the position. So the
Right,
qualifications for this are just
so then it
a high
was
school
just
diploma.
So then it was just the position, we're creating the position, and that's what, so would we be looking forward to that certification, that appointment with regard to our humane officer?
So I think the program that's been outlined, and Nate can probably step in to answer this one if I'm incorrect. But it's just replacing the current program, which revolves around one position with multiple part-time in order to maintain the same budget that we currently have.
So we
it's
are
not
not-
going, we don't currently have someone who's appointed. It was an applied for position. The reason why it's called humane officer is just because we went with that language when the program was created. And I know that Alder McElhaney might have some insight into this as well, maybe. No? Okay, she's shaking her head no. So when the position was created, it was created under the statute, but we didn't require all of those. So there's a statute that's specifically to humane officers, but my understanding is that the current humane officer doesn't need to have all of those qualifications, correct? Correct. So that's a different qualification. So we don't have the per se humane officer, the statutorily prescribed humane officer that's in Wisconsin statutes. And we don't plan on replacing something that's not prescribed by the statute currently, that we currently have in place, with something that's different. We just plan on replacing it with something that's similar.
I'm sorry, but we still would ask for the 40 hours
Correct.
training in Madison.
Correct.
Well, and that's ideal. And I can give more context. The question about training, and we totally agree. We talked about what our officers are trained in now through their FTO process, how our CSOs are trained, and concern for officer safety that was brought up. So that 40-hour school in Madison, it's an investigation school. It's not animal capture school. It's not training necessarily animal care and capture and how to use those tools. It's an additional course that really gets into investigative practices, and we have information on that if you'd like. Also on the website, you'll see what they list in their training. So
Right, the course
yeah, correct.
Right.
They train evidence, search and seizure, body condition scoring, really getting in depth on building a case towards prosecution for crimes against animals is what it's there for. We do see value in sending even our non-sworn staff or community service officers to that, because it gives them that context of when they go to a call as first responders, which you want them to do. We want them to be aware of the flags and spot the concerns, to be able to dig a little deeper, to be able to get into the interviewing process. That's also part of that 40-hour training, is helping them understand how to build rapport with people so that they know how to treat them not like a suspect necessarily, and gather information from them that's credible about that animal, so that they can start that initial information gathering, so that we have quality information on the front end to carry on a criminal prosecution. So that's the outline of that 40-hour course. So that is just one piece of it. In the end, we would like them to go to that to get that additional context. But our in-house training program would really get into when you talk about animal handling, care, and safety. We've had discussions with the Humane Society of Marathon County, and for us, that's who we look to as our local expert for animal care, handling, and safety. They do it every day. Their director there has 17 years of experience, a couple of people there that have over 10 years of experience. And the director actually went to the same 40-hour course. So we see it similar how we partner locally with the Sheriff's Office and North Central for mental health. We really want to, we pay the Humane Society of Marathon County a substantial sum under contract, and we've talked with them about how we partner more to be better partners, to get our people connected with their people and do annual training and develop that joint effort to combine their knowledge with ours. And that animal care and safety, like that's what our CSOs can get that from them, because that's where the animals are, right? That's where the live animals are, that they can do that. So part of our training program proposal for our CSOs is at least 15 to 20 hours where they're just working out there. They're going to do a ride along at the Humane Society is what we want to develop, so that they're there handling animals with the Humane Society. Mutual benefit. They get somebody to help out, and it supports their mission, right? The Humane Society's mission is to inspire the community towards responsible pet ownership, or at least a component of it. And we help them spread that mission with that joint effort. So We look forward to that. We've had discussions about what that looks like, not just for us, but with Mountain Bay PD, with the sheriff's office, that's our local resource for all law enforcement. That's who law enforcement, our collective staff sees as our authority on this and who we want to work with to make sure we're getting them what they want, what they need. And they're going to train our staff on animal intake at their facility and why it's important and what to look for with animals when they are out there in the community. So those are additional training resources. In the last 13 years, the sheriff's office actually sent a sworn deputy, similar to our sworn officers, down to the humane officer course. That deputy now has 11 plus years of experience, and now they have an additional 4 officers, deputies that have gone to that training program. They have a full team now, and they've been in discussions with us about what they've learned over the last 10 years and how that works for them. And our officers, sending them, our sworn officers, to that 40-hour course brings them up to where they're at in terms of their sworn staff being able to assist and be a resource for significant crimes against animals. And that's where you talked about last time, do we lean on the county enough, and something, I think there was a comment about that, but we see the partnership possibilities really expanding here. They have chemical capture, we don't. We have a significant animal situation in the city. They have jurisdiction here, obviously. They can help us out. With our sworn staff, it's mutual aid. We can provide them somebody if they need assistance out in the county with something significant, and it goes both ways, as we've done with our other teams. So those are discussions with our local partners that we're really excited about, that we think maybe there's opportunity that we missed in the past, that as the Humane Society of Marathon County, as our fairly equal partner in all of this, in terms of how we do this in Marathon County, not just in the city of Wausau.
Going back into the original discussions, there was some questions in 2012 with regard to the CSOs. You know, how long do you envision the CSOs staying, you know, as a humane officer? You know, do we, you know, are they here 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
Well,
How would you anticipate, you know, the extensive training that you're describing with regard to a CSO,
Certainly.
you know, who is basically a 20-hour?
Well, the other departments we consulted, they really spoke to the benefit of that, because it is our training for our sworn officer candidate pool. So right now, our seasonal CSOs that we have 2 to 4 of them, I think at least 3 that are in their college education. They're over the 60 credits already. They're in their 3rd, going in their 4th year of college, because they want to work here and they want to be sworn officers and go down that path. So our animal control function with the CSOs, those are the ones that get assigned to go do that. There are our veteran CSOs, you know, this is their 2nd, 3rd summer. We give them more responsibility. They're getting more into the paperwork side of it and enforcement. And that gives us people that are already trained here and have that whole orientation already ready to go, that are good officer candidates. But also with this proposal, those current seasonal CSOs, we talk about our training program and multiple phase field training officer program and what that looks like over you know, a couple months for these staff. That they get to use their experience they have as seasonal CSOs right now. We know that we have multiple non-sworn staff who would be interested in these positions to be able to take the next step, and they would bring all of their current knowledge and experience with them. So they may start as a seasonal CSO. We may get them as a CSO2 in this role to continue developing their experience, and we have that much better officer candidate pool, and that's what other agencies have experienced, so that they continue down that career development.
But the ones that don't feed into the police department, how long are they? I mean, not every CSO feeds into the Wausau Police Department.
Sure. We have some seasonal CSOs that have been with us for years. So we anticipate, based on what other agencies experience, we talked about the program, the setup a little bit at 15 and 20 hours a week at the elevated pay rate of our current other admin staff, that they get good candidates for that, looking for that part-time job, including some of our current seasonal CSOs. So life takes turns. We can't predict how long someone would stay, but we see that as a good middle point to continue developing our seasonal CSOs and have a robust program where we have multiple people that can carry this out.
Are there, and you made reference to the quitting of the Everest, were there other agreements with other local municipalities with regard to our humane officers through the years? Or we do not have another, with a variety of towns, agreements?
No, we don't.
Because
Some have-
originally, I think there was some talk about having agreements with other municipalities, towns, villages in Marathon County, but we do not have those currently.
No, and as we discussed, there's reasons that we've learned over the last 10 years why the drawbacks of the city contracting out as opposed to them having their own contract. But we talked about how, at least for significant and events and for training, how we're all going to work together and be on the same page using the same local resources and all being in the same network, that we're doing things the same way consistently, that we can help each other out.
I know you said at your original, sorry. I know you said at your original presentation that it was your goal to hire CSOs that would stay longer periods than those who are more temporary now. But that's going to take time, and we don't know if that's a given, right? So how about all the time it takes to learn about animal handling, about aggressive animals, about animals that are frightened? I mean, if these are people that have not had that kind of experience, how is it, I mean, I just don't understand how that can work if they...
Oh, I can provide some, as far as context, like here at Wausau PD, our historical context, like we look back and we talked about, HR keeps records of injury, right? We talk about officer safety and what our record looks like. And just proof of concept over time as sworn officers, as FDOs, train their staff on encounters with animals from their own experience, whether it's as a pet owner themselves, like most of us are, or getting experience through the Humane Society or from our in-house people. What we've experienced over the last, since 2016, we look back at injury, we average, our patrol officers and our CSOs combined average 500 to 800 animal-related calls for service annually. So whether it's stray cat, stray dog, animal complaints. So they go to hundreds, just the CSOs and patrol. And over 8 years, we average 1 injury per year over those last 8 years. And those injuries have amounted to scratch, self-care, Band-Aid, go back to work. So we don't have any lost time in our patrol officers over the last 8 years, despite them going to all of these calls. So we know they get that on-the-job experience, just like their first traffic stop or their first OWI. They have an FTO there to help them who has that experience. And it continues to go from one generation of officers to the other and utilizing our training resources to provide refresher as we need to. So over the last 10 years, even before that, we've had CSOs, seasonal CSOs performing these duties every summer, taking hundreds of animal-related calls. And our CSOs, similar, average 1 injury per year. Our last one by a CSO was in January. He had been here 3 years, so he had gone injury-free. This is his 3rd year, and he had a dog nip, and there's a Band-Aid and back to work. I mean, it happens. Accidents happen with all of our staff. We know that. But we train our officers through the academy and through FTO to make good decisions under pressure and help each other out and fall back to their training. And I think our safety record really shows that.
Any other questions or comments?
So what happens, this is just a job description, does the program go to finance, or how
No.
does?
It's budget neutral, so it goes to council. It went through public health and safety. This is, this is a workflow issue. So since it's budget neutral, there is no finance implications because whatever I don't know the amount. I know the amount from Mountain, what it was from Everest Metro. But it is covered through the rest of 2024 within the budget. And then the same thing, it would be rolled over into 2025's budget for the animal control budget.
And just to clarify that, the current budget will expire in October of this year. So it's not the funds that the city has currently will only have the program through October of 2024, and then we would restart it in January of 2025.
Okay, that needs to be clarified, because that doesn't make sense to me.
So we don't have the funding to pay for the current program through the end of the year. The funding that we have right now is only current through the end of October of 2024 because we lost that contract with Everest Metro. So we lost 17,000 about?
Yeah,
We lost about
16,800.
17,000, so $16,800 for the year, and we don't have any way to replace that currently. And this was the
But-
recommendation.
Yeah,
2025 proposal for the screen CSO2 position.
it starts in 2025. So what are we doing from October till? And here comes Chief.
I think our intention, which we're very comfortable, we can still serve the city at a high level, is suspend the program from the end of funding through December 31st. We'll continue to respond to animal control calls the way we have all year long. And then shoot during that period of time, November, December, to onboard 3 individuals at 20 hours a week to be able to have them start early 2025 and enter that training portal with us.
Which would coincide with our animal licensing year, too. Remember on that chart where that's slower, like November, December, since we're gearing up for the next licensing year, we don't do a lot of proactive enforcement during that time.
It bothers me that I think we're losing a little bit of sense of the professional part that I would want to see in our humane officer. In-house is fine and experience is great, but I think in the bottom line, I think we, as many years ago for the citizens that paid license fees to have a professional dedicated humane officer, I wish that we would move towards a little bit more certified and registered humane officer training. But for now, I think we still need to be looking at professional humane officers as part of, I think that's a commitment we made to the city many years ago, and I think I still have an obligation for that. Thank you.
Do we have a certified, I don't understand what you're looking for in a humane officer. We are using that term loosely. Okay, go ahead.
I'll summarize it this way. Mr. Gisselman, you are absolutely correct. Our citizens deserve people that not only have the knowledge and experience and the training to be able to do the job. We would never put anyone in a position to do that we weren't comfortable could serve this city at a very high level. I am 100% confident that this program that's been designed is going to provide a better service to this community at a lesser cost to this community. I'm confident in that. And I think the title of humane officer, in order to be a certified humane officer, it requires continuing education as well as a 40-hour class. We're doing the continuing education as part of this plan, including the 40-hour class, as well as partnership with individuals who've been doing this for an extended period of time, as well as partnership and training from the Humane Society of Marathon County, which is our contracted partner here. As a result of that, I'm very confident that this opportunity for us to reinvent our animal control program is in the best interest of this community. and it's going to serve them at a very high level and be able to provide additional services to this community beyond animal control because of their ability to enforce code. And I was speaking to someone recently, and I said, whether it's myself or any patrol officer or any CSO, when they see an issue in our community that has to do with code, I expect them to take some action with that. And that's where we're pushing our department as a whole, is to be observant, see things that are occurring, and as they have time and ability, especially when it has to do with code, to take enforcement. This program allows us to do that and get much more robust service, 50% more hours per week than we had before, with individuals that have the training necessary, that if we want to pay an annual fee or whatever the case is, to have them have the word certified, and that's the will of the council. I'm certain we can do that because we're going to be providing everything necessary for that to occur. We ran into a situation where we lost funding, and I pay attention enough at these meetings, and this came through the lens of, we recognized that our program was not working. Our program didn't work because it was built around a single employee, and that's on us. That's on us years ago, that's the program that we built. And we were not able to provide a service to Everest Metro that impacted their ability to, their desire to not contract with us any longer. And what was tasked to Ms. Bernardi and these two individuals here was to investigate statewide what are best practices, what are other departments doing, and how can you build a program that provides better service without having to go to the finance committee and ask for additional dollars. And so those are the two choices that exist to this council, is to continue with the status quo, at which point this will have to get referred to the finance committee to be able to determine where that additional funding would come from. And I'm not here saying it's mega dollars. We run a $13 million budget and it's $17,000, but all the $17,000 add up. So the task was build a better machine that you can operate for less money, or the other option is to go back to the status quo. And I'm just here telling you that that's a flawed design built around one employee, because it doesn't give us the consistency or the coverage when they're not here. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think those are necessarily the only two options. I don't think we have to go back to what we have. I personally think that the city has the ability to look for that $17,000. I think that humane officer position and the experience and expertise that come with that, from all of the expert opinions that I got, I mean, they felt that was critical and necessary. And I guess I feel as though our city, if the council would feel that a humane officer per se was the answer, I feel like our city could come up with an additional $16-some thousand. That's just a personal opinion. And I don't think that's unnecessary spending. I think that's critical spending for people who have animals and pets, and for people who are bothered by other people's animals, and for obviously people who have veterinary clinics. They felt that that was a critical issue. So I just don't think those were the only two options.
Thank you. I really appreciated the inclusion of the meeting minutes from December 2012 in our packet, because it really gave a lot of context to how this, the animal control program was originally conceived. And I feel like reading this and seeing how the model is being run today, we certainly have some disconnects and shortfalls here. The originally back in 2012, it was stated that 95% of the complaints, come in between 7 a.m. and 1 o'clock a.m. And ideal staffing would run between 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. or noon until 9 p.m. Yet our current animal control, our humane officer is daytime hours only, 8 to 4:30. So I see a disconnect there. I also see a disconnect also in the original program was proposed to have a supervisor and 2 humane officers, and we never got to that level, and I think that's our the biggest problem. And I see that and this just sort of leads me to believe that if we are to reshape the program into something that is a little bit more flexible in using multiple part-time community service officers, CSOs, that we would be able to provide that coverage in those late afternoon and evening hours that's missing and still hit our budgetary targets. So that's my feeling on this, and I think I feel that's the route we need to go with just a little bit more flexible type of operation and scheduling with multiple part-time people. So thank you.
I was here in 2013 when the idea of animal control was brought up. I wasn't on the council. I was on the subcommittee as a citizen member. I have had animals all my life. I still have animals. And it was placed to the animal owners that we need a robust animal control program due to some high visible case that came through and other things. The animal people, including myself, raised their hand and said, we will pay more in fees, which went up really exponentially higher, if we have this program. It was made as an enterprise program where the license fees were going to be paid for that position. That was the goal. We had hoped that we would hook on to other, like Alder Gisman said, hook on to other neighboring communities, municipalities, and that is how that program was going to grow into another humane officer, maybe some CSOs, that type of thing. That never happened. It just didn't happen. I get the calls on weekends and evenings and things as an older person for the last 8+ years saying, I have an animal problem and I can't get that, and I can't get the humane officer. I have this, I can't get a hold of them. I got this. So we know when most people are off of work is when the nuisance calls come in or the bites or whatever. We just had a bite in public health and safety, I think this last winter, and it was done at 5 o'clock at night, so that's when somebody had to report to the hospital. I'm looking at this only as an animal control program, and it's unfortunate because you want to place in the people, but I'm looking at this as an animal control program. I have talked to the police department, the different people. I think that the presentation was very, very data-driven, which I approve. I love data. Give me data, not feelings, and that's what it was. So I'm going to support this due to the fact that I believe we are giving a better service to the people that are paying the licenses for the entire city, because that's what we promised. We haven't given that, and I think it's gone, unfortunately, too long for 10 years before that we raised the problem. But that's what I hope. Maybe, just maybe, we can partner with other people and other municipalities will join in. I mean, I don't see that we can't look at expanding and bringing more people on or whatever, but I don't want to go back and ask more people to pay more for licenses when we're not giving a more robust program. So that's what I'm seeing. I know there's been issues about, and I've seen that humane officer is being eliminated. Humane officer, of what we know, is the 40-hour class plus the continuing education. I think that That's what they are replacing that with, the exact same type of education that we had asked through the job description, correct? So that is kind of the same on that. We have had patrol. I don't know where we've lost this, but we've had patrol respond to 60% of the dog calls for years. So I don't see that as, that it's going to be too much for patrol or CSOs. We have them responding a majority of the time. And I fear that's kind of what happened with Everest Metro. I think there was a percentage of how many times Everest Metro Patrol responded versus our animal control program, and they didn't see value in it anymore. So I'm going to support this. Who knows, I have to support the professional staff who says it is the way to do it. So that's my 2 cents. Is there any other?
Okay, fine. I'm not quite sure where I'm landing as yet, but so we're being promised this evening that we're going to be covering weekends and evenings, a more robust covering of the city. Back in 2012, we were promised of more flexible time with regard to the hire, and that seemed to have dropped it off, and that changed. So I'm not, I'm not sure where we're going here with this. I think we're losing some. I'm not sure where we're going with this. But I guess that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Becky, Madam Chair, excuse me, I just wanted to say that I understand that there's 40 hours of training and to get the certification, and they'll have a humane certification title. I'm having difficulty understanding why we have to eliminate a position. Why couldn't we supplement those off hours with CSOs that have that certification? I know it would be a bit more of a financial commitment for the city, but that feels like the most logical thing to me, to maintain someone who has the experience and more education and the expertise, and supplement those off hours that are the biggest concern with flexible CSOs. So that would be my proposal.
Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. We can vote. Motion is on the floor to accept this animal control program change as discussed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's 2-2, and that goes to council. The next one, discussion and possible action regarding vacation accruals above employee handbook maximum. I don't know how to even. We have had employees, due to various circumstances. I know some has been the implementation of Workday, which has been years-long big issue, trying to transfer everything from our old city systems to that. They have put in massive hours and haven't taken their vacation. Accruals are above the maximum on the per the handbook. So with that, the mayor has asked that we look at this because some background. I know back in the last term, I would think that was still when Director Vanderboom was here. We had that, had the same kind of issue. I think that was the beginning of Workday. And it was decided that I think the mayor, I think it was in 2022, the mayor had the ability to waive that program limitation and allow that vacation to accrue higher. the same question is being asked of Mayor Denny, and he would like us, as an HR committee, to codify what we would like to do. So that's, I guess we have the choice of giving it to the mayor or having the mayor come up with a, with a program or with a decision of how to do it and bring it back to us. This is kind of where we're at right now.
I think the second part of that, and I guess in the part that concerns me, is what I really wanted was direction from the committee on drafting policy when it comes to this, because I think right now everything is kind of by a handshake and a wink and a nod, and we know that that's not a good idea. We need it to be consistent. This is not, I'm not in favor of doing away with it, because I think it's imperative that we have this flexibility because, they brought up workday, but there are other situations in departments where the department is so depleted that the director has to just constantly work. And then that director doesn't have a second. So he has no option but, to work and not take vacation. So there are other things that happen also. But I think our goal is to have a policy that kind of spells everything out. How do we do it? And one of the things that concerns me the most is that to try to simplify this, because if you go to our handbook, there are maximum hours, and those maximum hours are roughly 2 years. It's like you working 2 years without taking vacation. That's your max. So, and just to give you an example, because it's just easier, the department heads, the max is 360 hours. That's, so no matter whatever you do, that's the maximum in the handbook. But I think the issue is, what happens if someone leaves the city employment and they've got so many hours over that? What happens? And I think that's what we need to deal with in policy, because if someone left with a huge amount of hours over that, that could really destroy that department's budget for the upcoming year. And I think that's why those limits are put in place. So to me, when it's, as long as it's extended and the person takes those hours and gets below that maximum, I think it's a good thing. But I think that's what we're looking for, is direction on how long is it going to take to get below that. Because we can't just continue to extend and extend and extend and just hope the person stays here, or whoever it is, that they just stay here and never leave when they're above the maximum. So what we really want is just direction on how to draft policy to make this more standardized, but also to protect the city, in case someone has an absorbent amount and they leave the city's employment.
When I was reading through the packet, I thought it said, and maybe I misunderstood, that if they've accrued a maximum and they leave the city, that they would only get the number of years that they were employed and would lose the maximum? Was that not?
Well, right now, that's a handshake and a wink and a wink and a nod. That's not, because in the past, people that it's been, when I say in the past, I haven't been here that long, but talking to people with institutional knowledge have said there have been others that left, and they left those hours on the table because they were paid at that max. So we just don't want any surprises. We don't want someone to have 500 hours and they're not understanding why they're getting paid for 360.
It would be my suggestion that you, with all the expertise in human resources, would have a suggestion as to what the best policy would be.
Mm-hmm. Well, but again, I think, I want direction from the committee, because I'm more of a vessel for your vision. I don't get to make vision. I'm more of a tool. So I want to make sure that that whatever policy that we do, that you guys are okay with it. And I think that's kind of, and again, whether it be the mayor or but it just needs to be fair. Because I think we always need to have the ability to extend that in extraordinary cases, because so much can happen with staffing, with things that we just can't foresee. So we don't want to get so locked in to where we just say we're not going to do that anymore. So I think it's very important to have this flexibility.
How is it possible to have a policy that's set when you're allowing flexibility and discretion? I mean,
I think what the mayor and I have spoken about is having a formal way to request it. But along with that request, you have to have a plan that says that within the next year or the next 2 years, this is where I'm going to be. That's where we're going with it. And it's not going to be HR keeping up with it and coming and bugging you every year saying, hey, you need to get down. When you make a plan, you're going to have to stick to that plan. And again, that's not open-ended. That's something that's going to be within a couple of years that you need to be back below that maximum.
that makes sense.
I mean, that's what I heard as well. So what direction do you need from this committee is to say, like even by consensus, this is what we would like, and then you come back with a kind of a honed-in policy?
Right. I would come back with a draft that
Okay.
kind of hopefully takes everyone's concerns. And I think it's also important to get the people that this affects to get their concerns also. Because this isn't we're not trying to rob people of anything that they deserve or that they've earned. I think it needs to be fair to everyone. So I really want stakeholders from both sides, from the people that it affects, but also from the legislators.
So, go ahead, Michael.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because when we made those agreements for the additional accrual of vacation days, it was the understanding that staff were under very extraordinary circumstances, and they had to get a job done in a constrained amount of time, and this was a reward for doing the extra work over and above what they were called for to do. So I'd hate to see anybody lose their accrued vacations, but I also understand how this could create a hole in the budget, in departmental budgets. So, yeah, I think you're on the right track, finding a policy on how we can how staff members can get work to get their accrued, the extra accrued vacation days used up so that they ultimately stay under the limits for a point of time when it comes to, a separation, whether leaving or retirement or whatnot. So.
The larger issue that you raise is is certain departments lacking in staffing so that people cannot take vacations. I would think that and I know that there are unusual circumstances, granted workday, I get that, but I would hope that the city would have enough staffing throughout the departments so that anybody, supervisors, managers, whatever, would be able to leave in a normal time without having to fear that work is not getting done. It's just a concern of mine. I don't think that it's healthy for the city to have that kind of attitude that I can't take a vacation because the work needs to get done and I don't have anybody behind me that can help me. I don't know the situation, but that's my concern after hearing some of the conversations this evening.
Yeah, I understand that, because I think for, just from wellness standpoint, a person needs to take a certain amount of time off. You don't need to be in here from dusk till dawn every day, but there are just things that happen, and I hope I see Rick back there, so I hope he doesn't mind me using him as an example. I think Rick went like 2 years without having a deputy assessor, and in between those 2 years, he's got property appraisers coming and going. Oh, yeah, and we also had a citywide revow, you know? So the work's got, and you know, it's great being a director and being able to dress nice and say you're a director, but when the rubber meets the road, that's kind of where it stops. You know, you've got to get that work done no matter what. So it's not an ideal situation, but I think it's a way that we can be sensitive to it. And the same thing with Workday. You know, no one really could foresee all of the turns and twists that we've been through. And I know, because I've been in these meetings, that how hard that is, especially finance, how hard they have to work, and the curveballs that they've been thrown and promises that were made that didn't really work out. And now it's up to you. You know, once you've invested that money, you've got to make it work. So, and the answer is not always, well, you know, I'll just leave this and I'll be back next week. You know, sometimes if it has to be done, it has to be done. And we want to be sensitive to that, but we also want to make sure that the city's protected also.
Any other questions? Otherwise, it looks like they just want consensus that we are okay with them working with the stakeholders, the mayor, and our HR director, and kind of compiling some type of policy that we would ultimately codify into the handbook.
Right.
So I don't think we need a motion or a second. I think this is just consensus if that's what you agree to. I see nodding hands.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I think we had a pretty robust discussion, and hopefully you've kind of got a feeling on where we stand on this. So,
Okay.
so definitely I'd like to see some policy coming back to the committee that we can
Okay.
talk about some more definites.
Okay. All right. That is our agenda. So a motion to adjourn. Motion by Killian, second by Martins. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks.